Hello and welcome back to my channel. A little bit different today. I wanted to set out a little bit of a mission statement that I have planned for 2017, as well as give you guys a little bit of an update about my goals for the channel and what I have in mind coming forward. Part of what motivated me to make this video is Barbara Shenyu. He or she mentioned some of the things that they would like to see in the coming year. And they talked about Brian Weissman, Nate Prodzak, Cameron Sadler. All of us post a lot of Control slash Blue decks. All of us play competitive EDH, in case you weren't aware. And I wanted to talk about why each of us play Blue as a primary color among our decks. Pun intended there. So the reason that we play Blue is that Blue X decks can do, meaning blue and at least one other color, can do essentially anything that all four of the other color, any of the other four colors can do. So think about what blue can't answer. There are enchantments and artifacts that blue doesn't do a good job of destroying. There's creatures that blue doesn't do a good job of answering, but there's mind control effects which are sometimes better than an answer. So we're going to discount creatures. You have answers to those in red. So Brian Weissman, who is famous for the original deck, the grandfather of control archetypes, so to speak, used Kildrone Outpost as the win condition of a deck and just answered creatures the entire time. His Nin, the Pain Artist, EDH deck is very evocative of that original style. True control list. Very sparse on win conditions because you don't need all win conditions. You need one or two. As long as you have control of the game, you'll get to them eventually. But what Nin brings to the table by being blue and red is answers to artifacts and creatures that are slightly more efficient than the answers that blue has. I know I just mentioned that blue doesn't have answers to some types of cards, and that's mostly true. The eternal card pool of EDH is such that the answers exist within mono blue, but the answers are expensive. And I brought up an example, if you were shrewd and were looking at the tabs of my Chrome browser. I brought up the Mind Twist Amnesia analogy. So this brings me over to Nate Prodzak's channel, who is probably best well known for his Aloro, the deck build, and he communicates with Brian Weissman on a regular basis, as far as I know as well, that Nate builds true control, and that is what Aloro is. He's not a huge fan of combo in the same way that someone like Cameron Sadler is, who plays Jaleva Storm. But I'm digressing. So Nate plays Aloro control, and while blue doesn't have a great answer for hands, it has an answer in the form of Amnesia. It's one of the only mono blue cards that can make players discard their hands without refilling them. Time Twister Windfall effects don't count. You need some way to prevent your opponent from drawing cards if you're going for one of them. Maybe something like Spirit of Labyrinth. Oh wait, that brings you into white. Or Notion Thief. Oh, that takes you into black. So what Amnesia is doing is it's existing in a very niche spot for a mono blue deck. It looks at target player's hand and discards all non-land cards from it, or target player reveals and discards all non-land cards. So it's essentially a 6 mana that costs triple blue and 3 generic, Mind Twist. So even though the card exists in another color, you can do it in blue. The drawback is that you have to spend a lot more mana. Imagine if they have only 3 cards in their hand. You're spending 6 mana to attempt to hit 3 cards, and you're not going to get lands. In Mind Twist, if they have 3 cards in their hand, you're spending 4 mana to hit their entire hand regardless of card type. And that's really what the X part of the blue X decks brings to the table. It's that some of the things that are a little bit more difficult to do in blue can be done by another color at a fraction of the cost. This brings me back to Brian Weissman's Nin deck, that he plays Vandal Blast, he plays Rolling Earthquake, because Vandal Blast answers artifacts, and it actually answers them. It actually destroys them. It can be a huge blowout when you resolve it. Rolling Earthquake kills creatures and actually kills them. It also kills planeswalkers, and that's one of the things that Brian talks about a lot, is that Rolling Earthquake is one of his few answers to an early planeswalker. One of the things that the different colors bring to the table is those types of answers. Even though Mono Blue can do it, because it has this fantastic safety valve in the form of Cyclonic Rift. And this card single-handedly changed the EDH format, in my opinion. The fact that Cyclonic Rift suddenly existed in a world where it didn't created a vacuum of blue. Pun, once again, intended. Always assume my puns are intended. So Cyclonic Rift created this. It is truly, in my opinion, one of the cards that you always play if you are playing blue. It's so incredibly versatile in the sense that it's either just a Into the Royal, an unkicked Into the Royal, that you can't target your own things, so strictly worse. But that turn when you get the 7 mana Cyclonic Rift, bounce your opponent's board, untap on your turn, and take over the game, that's why this card is really included in lists. It's because no matter what your opponent is doing short of getting a Planeswalker emblem, Cyclonic Rift will answer it. I think there's a caveat in the sense of someone like Cameron Sadler who plays Storm. Cyclonic Rift doesn't do anything. He's already getting Storm. If you're rifting him in the middle of his Storm turn, you're just giving him additional Storm. But short of that, Cyclonic Rift answers it. You got a team of attackers that's attacking to kill me with Craterhoof. Cyclonic Rift answers that. You have all of the lock pieces in play, and I can only play one spell per turn, and I can't draw cards. Cyclonic Rift answers that. There's nothing that Cyclonic Rift doesn't answer, and I'm not in the competitive scene. There we go. I added in the competitive scene because Maze's End is not in the competitive scene. So this card incentivizes playing blue just because it's so cheap to even splash in a 3 or 4 color deck at this point. And it's so incredibly good that blue can literally deal with almost anything. It's just the corner cases where it's really expensive for blue to deal with it, that's where you want to add a second color, or maybe a third color. And it's why I play decks like my Widwin. It's mostly blue control, but black has actual kill spells. Black has actual tutors. Like I have Vamp in the deck. It actually gets any card that I need. It's mostly a blue deck, with a little bit of black thrown in because black gives it things that blue can give it, but at a fraction of the cost. It's the reason people play so many blue decks, the higher in the tiers that you get for competitive EDH. Some of the commanders that I've considered and that have been mentioned by, Barbara Shenyu in this comment here are Food Chain Prosh, which is very good, and Mid-Range Carador, which I think is tier 1 for multiplayer, but I don't think it's quite as good for 1v1, and Marath, Will of the Wild. All ones that I've had my eye on as far as building, and really Marath of Will of the Wild stands out to me the most as one of the potential builds later in the year. The thing that Marath struggles with, though, is the necessity of Gaia's Cradle in lists, which is currently sitting at 32.5 tickets on MTGO Trader at the recording of this video, and they're buying at 29 tickets. So I'm foreseeing a rise in the MTGO price of Gaia's Cradle if they're buying it at only 3 tickets beneath what they sell it for. It's not very much of a good turnaround for them, so it makes sense that they're going to be raising the price of it in a little bit, or they foresee a price rise of Gaia's Cradle coming. Marath is a deck that is so almost as much as Animar, but Marath is a deck that is so incredibly broken when you have Gaia's Cradle, and so incredibly fair when you don't have Gaia's Cradle. And I know I spit that word fair out, but I want to play decks that are competitive, and playing non-blue immediately means I want to be playing a deck that is unfair. I want to be telling my opponent, you have to absolutely answer whatever I'm doing right now, or I'm going to win the game. And Marath is that type of deck when you have access to Gaia's Cradle. It plays Crop Rotation, Sylvan Scrying, and Expedition Map just to be able to have access to Gaia's Cradle every game. And without access to it, you don't have anywhere near as good as game. Even playing all of the hate bears, the good dorks, perfect mana base, there's some, or almost perfect mana base because you don't have the Grail. You're still lacking that oomph that the deck needs to really push over the edge of some of the more competitive blue control shells. Something like Cameron Sadler's Jalefa deck. Consider a turn 4 Marath turn. I played Marath on 2. On 3, I did Dork. On turn 4, I'm only have maybe 4 or 5 mana. On turn 3, I made 1/1s. I only have maybe 4 or 5 mana if I don't have Cradle. But if I have Cradle, I have something like 8 mana on turn 4, or 9 mana on turn 4, which is more than enough to probably dismantle whatever my opponent's doing at that point. And you need to have those broken strategies when you're going against the competitive blue decks. So that's what's keeping me from building some of those lists right now. I work 39 hours a week, hourly job. I get like 10 or 11 bucks an hour right now. I graduated college last year. It's work. That's all it is right now. So until I have a more steady stream of income, or I get some of the revenue out of the channel, which I can't pull out until it reaches $100. This is my AdSense revenue currently, off of a total view of 19,670. So that comes out to just about 80,000 views will give me $100 in revenue, which I plan to reinvest in the channel. But until I have that, or some other source of revenue, I don't really foresee investing a lot in MTGO. I don't want to buy the duels yet because I don't want to pay that much money. The fetches, the same rules apply. I'm trying to build MTGO on a budget, and also it's for the. I'm gonna cop out and say part of it's for the viewers. My original Yisan list was under 30 tickets, so you could sit down or trade in some of your more unique cards that MTGO traders or another online retailer is looking for, and say, hey, alright, cool, I really like that Yisan deck that he was playing. I'm going to buy that list verbatim. I have none of the cards, but now you do, and 30 tickets, there you go. Now you have a competitive Yisan list. All you got to do is learn the routes and lines with. But the more that I build the lists up and invest more cards in, the harder it is for someone to copy my lists and use them for their own competitive games. So I like trying the challenge of trying to build budget. I think Yisan's about 50 tickets right now because of some of the stacks effects that I added. So having the lack of force of will in my blue decks, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt as much as lacking Gaea's Cradle would in a Marath deck. Because blue still can do good things, Marath can do fair things. And that's where I draw that distinction. I don't mind not having Force of Will. I would like to get one eventually for MTGO. I have paper, but I don't have online. But I'm not going to invest the money because it's not, even though it's going to go in a bunch of decks, it's not going to really kick those decks over the edge. I would rather, if I had that money strictly for MTGO, buy the Gaea's Cradle, or buy the things that I need to make Marath, so that way I have one more deck that I can showcase to you guys for all of you to enjoy and make comments on and tell me how bad I'm misplaying or what audio issues I'm having that week. So that's my little spiel on decks that I'm planning, but I'm planning further into the future. One of the goals that I have for this channel in the coming year is I'm going to try to have at least one video going up every single week. One gameplay that you can watch every single week. Short of me traveling, which I would alert my loyal viewers about, that I'm going to be out of town and you're not going to get a weekly video or so. I know a lot of times I post videos more than once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 in a row, just because I don't want to have a 50-minute video. But I hope that you guys enjoy having those types of videos and having that reliance and the ability to see new content every couple days. But my goal is to, I think, a fair goal, at least every 7 days, there will be a new video for you to watch on my channel. One of the other goals that I have, currently my subscriber count is, what? Is it on my dashboard? 227 subscribers. This is last 28 days. So my goal for, what do you want, set as a conservative estimate? By the beginning of June, I think I would like to have try to get to 500 subscribers. See if we can get there. And part of that is relying on you guys. Like the videos if you like the content and you want more people to see it. You want to share it with your friends. Send it to your Facebook group chat of guys you played with in college. That's what I did. I have that Facebook group chat with guys that I played with in college. That's why I know that it exists. Other people do it. Don't tell me they don't. Put my channel, link my channel to your guys at your local shop if they like playing competitive. If they want to see some more content, at least on YouTube. And don't forget to support Nate, Cameron, and Brian as well, and all of your other people that you like to watch play EDH on YouTube. Giving us that feedback, the comments, the views, it really motivates. At least speaking for myself, it motivates me to want to make more content for you. I love opening up YouTube and seeing that I have like 4 notifications up here in the corner, and getting to interact with you guys because it's a conversation about this format. I am not an expert, and that's part of the draw of EDH to me. It is unsolved, and I think it will never be a solved format in the same way that Legacy is somewhat a solved format. And Modern is more so a solved format. There is a very solid, you know what Tier 1 is, you know what Tier 2 is. It will change when new cards come out, but that's about it, and it won't change that much. Things have a relative movement of about 1 tier, maybe, depending on what new cards are released. EDH is such an immensely deep card pool, and the singleton restriction on a large deck means that there's always going to be some variation. You always have 5 or 6 flex slots in whatever deck you want to play. Hell, you want to play Zur, you're going to have a couple slots that you might be able to change around. And Nate Prodzak is one of the other people that agrees with this idea that EDH is an unsolved format. He's been trying to build the uncontestable best deck that you could possibly build in EDH. And I think his Aloro deck is getting closer to it. I think he's down to 1 or 2 slots that he's been testing with. But there's no way to ever be sure that the deck's done, because there was a printing in the last set in Kaladesh of Aetherflux Reservoir. Totally changed the deck. It is the new win condition in his Allura deck because it's a single card combo with his commander. And that type of thing entering the format every couple months totally can change what was the best deck or what will be the new best deck. And that's why this format's so unsolved, and why us competitive players like playing it, like building with it. It's because it's a challenge. It's a new challenge, and it's continuously untested ground. So, that's going to be my entire talk for today. Sorry I don't have a gameplay for this video as well, but I wanted to be able to show you guys the cards that I was talking about here, as well as bring up the views for these guys' channels. Nate Prodzak, Cameron Sadler, Brian Weissman. I will link their channels down in the description. Go give them some love. Let them know that I sent you over also. We're trying to start building a little bit of a network, support each other's channels. So that way, at the very least, there's a beginning of a sphere of competitive EDH players that, even if it's not me, you can go to one of them and you know you're going to have a new gameplay that you can watch and enjoy whatever you want to do. One of the reasons that I chose to start this channel was I want people to learn like I learned. I learned to play competitive by watching Brian Weissman play. I learned lines by watching Brian Weissman and Nate Prodzak talk about why they were taking certain lines. And I hope I'm able to do that for you guys. Don't forget to give me some feedback in the comments down below. What goals you would like me to have for 2017 for the channel, as well as for competitive EDH as a whole. It's great to hear from you guys. I always love having your comments and responding to them and interacting with you guys, because I'm not the expert on the format. Nobody's the expert on the format, and that's why EDH is a fantastic form of Magic to play. All right, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video to anyone you think might enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I mean, come on, got to get to that 500 subscriber count. All right, I'll see you all in the next one.